Closets have often been representative of what we as a society like to keep hidden. Whether it be personal traumas we no longer wish to relive, aspects of our identity we feel unsafe sharing with others, or the realities of our lives that we refuse to confront for ourselves. It's no wonder that horror films love to feature closets and characterize the darkness as the environment, the place where creatures and monsters from the deep, dark depths of our imaginations live. In horror films, closets are often represented as places to be feared, a threat to our sense of control over our own lives. And by extension, closets are the way to highlight our fears of darkness, which is so representative of all the things in our lives we refuse to let see the light of day. This blood-curdling tension of facing what lurks behind all of our personal closets is what has me gravitating to Stephen King's short story, The Boogeyman, as well as its 2023 film adaptation. In this vlog, I'm heading to the theaters to go watch this new release for myself, and then I'll also be comparing it to its original short story format. I am so excited because apparently there are discount days that I didn't know about until a few months ago when students told me. So needless to say, I'm so freaking excited. It is finals week for my students and I'm ready just to like kind of relax on a weeknight and see what this movie's all about and pay half price for it, which is great. Because my biggest concern and why I kind of waited a few days after its release, because it came out this past weekend, is that it wasn't going to be worth like $1 billion, which is the price of a movie ticket these days. I have been keeping up with a lot of like what people have been saying about it, and the reviews aren't really looking good. I honestly feel like I'm breaking rules by like going out so late in the evening on a school night. It's really fun, but summer's upon the horizon, so I gotta get used to, I guess, having a nightlife now. So let's go to the movies. It is a day after I watched The Boogeyman in theaters, and I want to share my non-spoilery thoughts about how that went for me. I didn't have too many expectations coming into this movie. I did watch the trailer, so I understood the premise, the setup of what the plot was going to look like. I didn't read the short story collection before I went to go see the movie in the theater because I wanted to kind of explore what works best for me when I watch TV or movie adaptations. Overall, I'm gonna give this movie a 3.5, maybe possibly a 4-star rating. It's not like an A24 film, right? It's not like this art house movie. It is what people call like a popcorn jump scare kind of film. Yes, it's very generic, very predictable in terms of its plot points. Like it really only has a low 60% rating for both critics and audiences on Rotten Tomatoes. But all that considered, for me personally, it really worked for me. It's a movie that you could like totally shut your brain off as you're watching and enjoy it and, you know, experience this story without thinking too much. But knowing me, I do not turn my brain off. It's part of the enjoyment factor of watching and reading horror. As a grief horror super fan, looking at this movie through that lens of like the grieving process and what is required for you to move forward in your life after you lose somebody you really, really love, it was super impactful for me and helped me feel really seen. And the horror genre has such a powerful opportunity to demonstrate the darkness, the deep, deep depths you go when you grieve. And I felt that was like powerfully displayed in this movie, which made me really, really enjoy it. When it comes to the acting, I thought there was some really incredible work done by really young actors. The two daughters really steal the stage. I like the direction that Rob Savage utilized when it comes to the tone and using different like ways of telling the story that I thought were like really creative. The use of light and darkness played really big roles in this movie as well. I was hesitant to go to the theater to watch it because it was initially created to stream on Hulu. It started officially getting into production in 2018, struggled with some issues, probably due to the pandemic, and then it was finally released just a few weeks ago. What had people rethinking the streaming release and considering putting this in theaters was getting really positive feedback from Stephen King, urging the creators of this film to explore putting it in theaters. So with that knowledge, that like blessing from King himself, I think that's really what got people thinking like, okay, maybe this is like substantial enough to be placed in theaters. And I think definitely it is something I don't regret watching. I did go on like a discount movie day, and although people are largely giving it like a 2 out of 5 star rating, I think for the right audience, this could really work. This would be a great movie for people who are just like starting out into horror. Like, I can only handle so much gore and like jump scares in a movie. Like, on a visceral level, it doesn't really gel well with my body and my mind. So this was a great balance for me. The tension was there, but wasn't too overwhelming for my nervous system. As I mentioned before, it's really great for folks who like to see grief represented through the elements of the horror genre, but it's not like those grief elements are shoved down your throat. So if you just wanted to like kind of turn off your brain and enjoy the movie for what it is, you will get a nice, albeit like predictable popcorn movie kind of experience. It is a movie that like lingers with you. Like there have been like multiple days and specifically nights where I'm just like thinking about the boogeyman and that creature while I'm in bed. And there have been a few nights where I'm just like kind of waiting until I am about to shut my eyes before I turn off my twinkly lights in my bedroom because I'm thinking of the boogeyman. But now I'm curious finally to get to the short story. It is in the Night Shift collection, which was released in the 70s. It is a really short story. Like, I think it was just about like 7-ish pages. And I know it's very different than what they adapted in the film. So I'm curious to check this out. That ending, wow. Okay, this is my first short story from Stephen King, and people have talked about so much on my channel, have given a lot of really great information about his works because admittedly, I've talked about this quite a bit, I am not the biggest Stephen King fan. Like, honestly, I find his stuff to be overrated, but people have often said, you know, Lauren, maybe you don't like his books, but you should check out his short stories. And this is the first one I did, and I get it. Like, this almost makes me like a huge fan of Stephen King. What he accomplishes in this story, I think, is so effective. That reveal at the end, whew, so good. And I'm so happy that I read this after watching the movie because I think it would have spoiled a lot of like the emotional journey that you need to go on as an audience member for that film. This is a 5-star short story for me. I really enjoyed it. Like, this really makes me want to read more short stories from King because it was short, sweet, effective, whereas I find like his full-length novels to be just way too descriptive, way too long-winded in ways that take me out of a horror story. Now that I've watched the movie and read the short story, I wanted to decide which one I preferred. Okay, if I had to choose, I definitely think I prefer the movie over the short story. Although that reveal, that twist was killer, I had a really good time. It was incredibly cathartic to look at this film through the lens of grief and the grieving process and what is really required for us to heal after the death of somebody we really love. The movie follows a family of 3, 2 daughters, one in high school, one in elementary school, and then a father who's a therapist, who are trying to get like back to their lives after the recent passing of their mother, the matriarch in their family. That is incredibly different from the plot of the short story. But when you watch the movie, you'll see that there are definite like threads that connect the short story to the movie. So it's not like they're like completely diverging in their stories. When you look at this story through the lens of grief, it is really clear to me about like what I take away regarding the messaging of the film. You really see the family in a certain state in terms of their relationships with each other at the start of the film, and then they evolve throughout the course of it, really mimicking the natural processes of what families experience when something like this totally like plows through their lives. The alienation, the isolation, and when you allow your grief, that pain to just bloom and really just encompass your entire life, it destroys you just like the boogeyman has the potential to do. And what is required to conquer the boogeyman is quite similar to what is required to move through your grief, especially a grief that is a collective pain. I just thought it was so beautiful and impactful, the way that the ending highlighted the power of community, the power of people who've come before us. And I won't get into any spoilers here, but it was so unexpected because everybody experiences movies very differently. And I'm somebody who really seeks out ways to explore, process their grief, since it's such a huge, significant aspect that has shaped me into who I am today. The ending of the story, the resolution, the boogeyman, like all of it just seemed to symbolize something that was one piece of this larger puzzle that is the grieving to healing process. process. And even like the ending says something about where these characters are at individually and like as a family. This movie just really hit home for me in very personal ways and reminded me about why I love the horror genre so much. And with that, it's time for us to close the door on this vlog. However, I would absolutely love to know, have you seen this movie? Have you read this short story? Please drop down in the comments any other short stories by Stephen King you think I should definitely get to next and prioritize. What are some really great film or TV adaptations of these stories? Like now I'm gonna be going on a Stephen King short story bender and I'm so here for it. If you've made it to the very end of this video, please leave a candle emoji down below in the comments so we can keep that boogeyman at bay. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all in my next video. Bye!